What's going on, guys, and welcome to part 10 of my team career mode for round 9, the Hungarian Grand Prix. So we start off today looking at the R&D. Once again, we are still a fair way behind Alfa Romeo. However, we did actually make a little bit of ground up and away from Haas Williams through kind of after the British Grand Prix. Going into doing some upgrades on the car there for R&D. We've got a few to do, and then going into the activities. Once again, we're just trying to, get the morale boost up for our team, get our second driver, Christian Lundgaard, a little bit better on all departments, and then, just a few little kind of sponsor events and stuff like that to help the team get through everything. We got some upgrades completed, and also one failed for the aerodynamics and the chassis there. We've got one complete from the powertrain. So I ended up going through and redeveloping those, and I also put did a new part for aero as well to help with the drag reduction. Now into Q1, the Hungarian Grand Prix, the Hungaroring. It's not my favorite track in the world, I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people say this is Monaco without the barriers. It's quite a tight and twisty track, not a whole lot of straights, although I think it's a faster track than Monaco by quite a long way, because you have the start-finish straight, you also have this long straight here, so there is a decent amount of straights in this one, but it is a fairly tight and twisty track. The curbs are quite vicious, through that first section there, and if you hit the curb on the right there, your car just spins straight around, so definitely be careful around there. And then this chicane here, it's just really hard to get it right through there. The sausage curbs kind of on the edges just really bounce your car out horribly if you hit them, and you've just got to be really careful. So, and then you've got this whole kind of twisty section through here, which is also just difficult to carry speed through. So much like in the British Grand Prix last time, I wasn't really expecting great pace here. We're still the 9th fastest team, only ahead of Haas and Williams. We're a decent way behind Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri. I believe actually going into this race, after we simulated everything through, did all the upgrades, AlphaTauri are actually below Alfa Romeo now. So AlphaTauri are the next car up the road. So that was our fastest Q1 lap. We go for our next fastest one, but I accidentally hit that curb there. This is what I was telling you about before. I smack into the wall. We actually managed to get away with it without breaking like a wheel or anything, but we break the front wing. And I'm a little bit worried here because I'm in P16. I'm thinking, can we get through to Q2 there? But that was my last wrap. I just completely ruined it. However, we did still get through to Q2, so I'm really happy about that. We haven't been into Q2, but I don't even know. It's been quite a while since we've got into Q2, so actually kind of surprised that on this track, a track that I don't feel like I'm very good at, we've made it into Q2. So now onto my Q2 fastest lap. This lap I don't think was quite as good. It was going pretty well for the first part of the lap, but towards the end there was a little moment I had later on, which you'll see, where just didn't really go that well. We hit that curb there. That's kind of the line you got to take. It's a bit of an awkward point. We actually get it a little bit too wide going around that corner this time. I think I was being a bit more careful after that spin off the curb in Q1. And then through here, we actually, from what I remember, get it decent through here. Once again, you hit that curb there. We kind of hit it in a way this time, though, that it's not really an issue. I think it's around here somewhere, though, that we have a bit of an issue. We go left and then right around this quick corner here, and this is where the car just gets a tiny little bit of understeer, kind of just gets grabbed onto the curb a little bit. So not a whole lot of time lost there, but still not too great. However, I'm not really too bothered here. We've got into Q2, so even if I end up P16, the bottom of Q2, I'm not really bothered because it's the best qualifying we've had for quite a long time. So we crossed the line. It's, like I said, I don't know how that compares to our Q1 time, but it is our fastest for Q2, and sure enough, we don't make it through to Q3. Was not ever expecting to, and we end up P16, so I think, just getting through to Q2 itself is really good, so let's see if we can make up any positions in the race.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. Historically a good race for first victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the first time here. The Hungaroring, it's like Monaco without the boats. 14 corners, 6 to the left and 8 to the right, and some very tricky corners to deal with. These rainy conditions out there aren't going to help either, so it's very likely we'll see a safety car or two during today's race. It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. And Anthony Davidson, could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Carlos Sainz and Ricciardo, Perez, Vettel, Stroll and Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, Shaw, Giovinazzi, Russell, Lando Norris, they've taken a grid penalty, and Christian Lundgaard, Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, Latifi and Kimi Raikkonen finishes off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
Okay, so we end up P14. We're up 2 positions thanks to a couple of grid penalties for Norris and Raikkonen, but we go to 5 red lights and away we go for a wet Hungarian Grand Prix. So it is definitely wet starting this race. We're on the intermediate tyres. However, the forecast, which I've only got on approximate by the way, said that it would be getting drier towards the middle of the race, and then perhaps towards the end of the race it would then be getting wet again. So this could be our first kind of wet to dry to possibly wet race. Off the line, we do pretty well. We're up into P13. We've got Ocon actually up our inside. We managed to jump a few cars off the grid. George Russell, though, you would have seen, absolutely dived up the inside. He's all the way up into P11. So George Russell, he's up from what, like P19 or something up to 11. Really good run for George Russell. He's got Fernando Alonso behind him, and honestly this is a track that's really quite difficult to overtake on, especially when it's wet like this. It really is kind of like Monaco, but we look up the inside of Ocon into here. He's quite slow, held up by the cars in front. We make a pretty good overtake into the chicane there. It's not the sort of place that you'd be wanting to get past usually, but he was just so slow coming into that corner, held up by the cars in front, that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for a bit of a dive. And sure enough, he gave us room, I gave him room, and we got the position on Ocon. We're back up into P13 again. So we've only made 1 position off the line. I mean, I think we've overtaken Ocon to get that position, but then we also lost out to Russell, who still is up in P11. So he's 1 position away from points at the moment, George Russell. He still hasn't scored points for Williams this season yet. Of course, the race last time at Silverstone, a lot of people that we didn't expect to score points scored points there, but Russell was one of the ones that DNF'd, so he is yet to score points. However, he's looking very close to it this time. Going on to lap 4, we have a radio message come through.
We'll be running on a dry track soon, back to dry shortly.
So he's saying, my race engineer is saying that the track will be drying out soon. Now at the moment it's still very much wet, but could be getting dry soon, so interesting to see when that'll happen. On to lap number 7 now, and Russell comes in, and my race engineer is telling me that there is a new strategy, and he wants me to go onto mediums and then to soft. So he thinks now it is time to come in for slick tyres. As you can see, it still looks very wet out here, but I don't think it's really raining. It's just kind of on the track. It's just wet on the track. So I don't know, this for me is a little bit scary. I think Russell, when he came in for dry tyres, so come in very early there for him. I think he might have come in a lap or two too early, but I mean, you can see here as we come into the pits, there's a few little drops, but it's not really raining much at all now. The track still does not look dry at all, but our team thinks that dry tyres are the way to go, and as you can see in the top left there when it gets back to it, pretty much everybody else is also now onto dry tyres. So it's at the point now where dry tyres seem to be the way to go for most people. We look in front and George Russell has lost the position to Alonso, so I would say that he did come in a lap too early on those tyres. And then we have big squabble there, big moments as, yeah, just need to warm up these tyres. And also it is still a little bit too wet at the moment, I feel, for the dry tyres. We haven't had ERS enabled yet. And then, yeah, there's a bit of an incident there. George Russell actually goes quickest that lap. And then we have Lando Norris go flying past us. We're not really going to put up a fight. And I'm still having quite a few issues here. We still haven't had DRS enabled yet. And I'm just having a lot more issues than the AI in these kind of wet to dry conditions. So I'm just really trying to hold on here. It is still ever so slightly dripping. But the track is slowly starting to dry out. As we look here, the track is definitely drying out by this point. But now we've got Giovinazzi. He's caught right up to the back of us, and he's trying to go around the outside into turn 1. We were a good 1.5 seconds ahead of the Alfa Romeo, but just been losing so much time driving on these slick tyres in these still a little bit wet conditions. So now we've got Giovinazzi, and we've also got Tsunoda coming up behind him as well. We've got quite a big gap back to the other cars behind there, but as you can see, Russell in the top left, he's absolutely flown ahead. I cannot catch him at the moment, and yeah, I'm really waiting for the track to properly dry out, and then maybe I'll have some pace in the car. But Giovinazzi, once again, he's going for the outside again on lap 13 or lap 12 here, I believe this is, but we managed to just outbrake him and make sure that he doesn't get us into that corner. I think by this point DRS may have been enabled. I'm not 100% sure. I thought I put the clip in when DRS was enabled, but I'm not sure, because Giovinazzi definitely had a good runners on there as if he had DRS or something. So yeah, not 100% sure. DRS may be available by this point, but as you can see, there's still drops coming on the screen, so it's not completely gone yet. But as we go on to lap number 13 this one is, I believe. It might be 15, I do not know. I think he's got his wing open, has he? I can't really tell. Once again though, he gets right up alongside us, but we're going to make sure we outbrake him. And I am at this point starting to get the tyres are warming up a bit. The track is drying off quite a bit now, and I'm now not struggling as much as I was previously. We get a little bit of a gap back to Giovinazzi now. So the track is definitely getting better. I mean, you can just see by looking at it that the track is definitely drying up quite a lot now, and I'm not having the issues that I was before. Up the front of the grid, and Max Verstappen is currently leading the way in the Red Bull, with Lewis Hamilton hot on his heels. I believe Valtteri Bottas was the race leader. However, him coming in for his pit stop, means he's down in, I think, 7th place at the moment, down there with Sebastian Vettel, which means that currently Max Verstappen is the lead car. They've got quite a good gap back. You can see there Daniel Ricciardo in the background. So yeah, Max just trying to keep that position from Hamilton.
We're getting some strange readings from a couple of the sensors. I don't think you need to be worried. It's just some bad data, so keep doing what you're doing, and I'll let you know if we notice any genuine problems.
So then we get this slightly concerning message from our engineer saying, we're having a few little issues here, but it's nothing to really be worried about. We don't think it's anything major, so just keep going. So at the moment I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe we'll be okay. We'll have to see how it goes. We're looking at a little battle here between Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly. He's got the DRS on him down the straight. He's going to go for the overtake. I believe Leclerc is moving his way back up the order after pit stops, or it might just be that Gasly is really doing quite well here. As you can see up ahead, 2 cars in front there side by side, which will have a look at that little battle as well, as it's Valtteri Bottas trying to make his way through the field and get past Sebastian Vettel. The Mercedes and the Aston Martin go side by side through turn 1, and they're still side by side all the way down here to turn 3. The Mercedes slightly ahead, but Sebastian Vettel, he's a 4-time world champion. He's not going to give up that easily, and they're still side by side all the way through here. But I think by this point here, Valtteri Bottas has managed to get the position. He is up to P6. Now he's got to go chasing after Sergio Perez to get into the top 5. Onto lap 18 for us, and a new strategy is coming available here. I don't quite have time to look at the strategy yet. We've literally got to the most twisty part of the circuit, so I'm going to just get through this twisty bit, get onto a bit of a straight, and then I'll see what strategy the team are wanting me to change to here. So we come around this corner here, we have a look at the strategy. It's simply just changing the soft tyres to 2 laps later.
We might have an issue. Hang in there. We're attempting to manage it.
Okay, so we still have issues happening here. That's a bit worrying. So basically the stop was just changing from lap 27 to lap 29, I think, on the softs. So I said, yep, I'll do that. But then we got that radio message saying, we've got an issue. So we haven't heard anything for quite a while since that previous issue, but now we've got an issue. We're going to try and see what we can do. However, there may be some worse things coming for us.
Okay, looks like a mechanical failure. We're going to have to ask you to find a safe spot to retire. Sorry about that.
And it's happened again. The second time this season in 9 races, we are retiring from the race because of a mechanical failure. We're out. We're done. I kind of somewhat saw this coming because obviously this happened last time, round 2 in Spain. After getting points in Bahrain, we got points for our second time in Silverstone, and now a mechanical failure here. I kind of saw it coming.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So, surprise, surprise, it's another win for Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton in second place, and Charles Leclerc comes home in third place. It's the first podium for him and Ferrari this season, so in this career mode. So awesome to see the Ferrari up on the podium. Yeah, so like I said, I was somewhat expecting it because, you know, we had our first points finish in the first round in Bahrain, and then mechanical failure second round. We had our second points finish in Silverstone last time, and then a DNF here, so I don't know, it's a little bit suspicious. So yeah, we end up coming in 20th, 22nd, only one to DNF. Lundgaard ends up in 18th place, so no points for the team at all this weekend. To be honest, wasn't really on for points anyway, so not such a big deal. We are still 12th in the championship though. We don't get overtaken at all. There's a few little changes up in front of us, but nothing major for the championship. Just Carlos Sainz slightly moving up the grid there, and that's really the only change here. Nobody else moves at all throughout the whole grid. So yeah, no massive changes for the championship. And then for the constructors, like it has been pretty much the whole time, it stays exactly the same. We're still in 8th place, and yeah, there's still no big changes at all throughout the constructors championship. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.